Hello and welcome to episode 84, Post-Pandemic PR in the Hospitality Industry.
Welcome to the PR Playbook Podcast, the only podcast giving you actionable skills and advice you need to execute a strategic PR program. Warning: what you hear next may lead to brand awareness and increased sales and customer exposure. Now here's your host, Rinjini Joshua.
Hello and welcome. We are at episode 84. Today we're going to be talking about post-pandemic PR in the hospitality industry. We are speaking with Noreen Heron, the CEO and founder of Heron Agency, who specializes in hospitality PR. Hi, Noreen. Thanks for joining me.
It's so good to be with you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so I really love to get professionals and PR people from different vertical markets. And it's really great to see because, although what we do in practice is kind of similar, every niche has their nuances. So I'd love to just hear a little bit more about Heron Agency, your background and where you guys, what you guys specialize in.
Fantastic. Well, we're a lifestyle communications agency based in Chicago, but we have clients all over the country. We've been in business now for 21 years. My very first client was Hyatt Hotels, and I represented their Eastern and Central divisions. And from that very first client, we have now gone on to represent over 40 hotel brands.
Wow.
We represent a lot of theaters, restaurants, events, and we do a lot of large retailers. And we are in the categories of what I like to say is anything that's fun and enhances life and creates memories. That's our bailiwick.
The fun agency. I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah, those are, I mean, having Hyatt as your first client is nothing to sneeze at. That's very cool. So I think the big thing on people's minds, especially in the hospitality, retail, hospitality, entertainment, is, the pandemic and how to be a sustainable industry through things like that are so, destructive, like this, what's happened in the last 2 years and, kind of still happening now. What are your thoughts around, what happened? I think it would be nice to have like a little introspective of what happened to the industry from your perspective when the pandemic hit and how it kind of evolved through today.
Well, the way that I describe it is that a tsunami hit the hospitality industry, frankly, and certainly hit my agency as well. We went from 59 clients down to 6 in March 2020. So it's been a real rebuilding period for us right now. But very true of a lot of the clients that we represent. One of our clients is Cameron Mitchell Restaurants. I know Cameron Mitchell has 3,600 employees, and he went to 6 employees over this period.
Wow.
It was a shutdown. It was a complete and total shutdown. I think for me, as I mentioned, we've been in business for 21 years. I started to look at diversification and moving more into retail about 10-year mark. And I felt, wow, we've got a lot of Massage Envy was one of our clients and Orange Theory Fitness. And I really felt like we had sort of, in addition to the categories that I mentioned, the theaters, restaurants, that we had really gotten into a place where we were representing a lot of different segments. And unfortunately, like I said, all of those were so severely impacted. So it was a year where for our clients that we knew would return, we did as much behind the scenes work as we could, meaning we were reviewing their websites so that they'd be in good shape when they got up and running, their performance systems, any sort of collateral, their social media platforms, still working on trying to obtain followers and the things that we could do as publicists in this waiting period. And so now we're in a period of rebuilding. And I think it's interesting in our country. I see it certainly in Chicago, where there's such high demand again for what we do, and certainly as publicists for what we do to open these venues again and get the word out they're open again. I think the biggest challenge now in the hospitality sector is this lack of employees and service, and trying
Wow.
to keep up with the demand is the biggest challenge right now. And
Yeah, because they had to go find other jobs, right? Like in the
a lot
meantime.
of them left. I mean, including even actors. I mean, a lot of actors decided that they'd get into something that was more stable
Right.
after last year. So we have pivoted with some companies where they have us working on recruitment campaigns, and that's something that's slightly new for us because we're usually just trying to get customers in the door. We're not trying to get employees in the door.
Yes, so the audience is changing also.
Absolutely, absolutely. And what's been great is we've been really able to hit some strides there and really help our clients in that way.
Okay, so I have a ton of questions from all the stuff you just said. So the one thing I said, the one question I had, the first thing really is, do you think when you went down, that number is just like so triggering for me. So you went down from like such a big number, double digits to single digits. Do you think that was just a result of a lot of panic first? Because I mean, from what I can think now, if you think back, I guess in retrospect, like they needed PR more than ever. But do you think they did that? They kind of cut PR because of panic reasons?
No, I really don't, because they were literally shutting their doors. I mean,
Okay,
our contracts, we have a 30-day out clause,
good.
and it was call after call was, I know we have a 30-day out clause, but will you be kind enough to let me out of my contract? And I have
Wow.
great empathy for people that are working in these fields. And being a hospitality publicist, I'm living in and breathing it with them. So call after call, I said, absolutely, we'll let you out, and know that we're still here for you and we're not going anywhere. And if you need anything over this period, we're here for you. And I think our clients greatly appreciated that. For us here at the agency, for the first time in 21 years, I actually had to lay people off.
Yeah.
I kept my senior team, and I just decided I wouldn't take a salary in 2020. And it was literally like boarding up the windows when you see a hurricane coming. That's what it felt like last year, and just trying to maintain ground level. So we did, though. I mean, we made it through, and we've got a great team still here, and we're growing, and every day we're getting new business calls, and it's coming back, which is really exciting.
So the second question that I think is a good segue here is, you know, so many people, and you mentioned Orange Theory, which I am a fan of, and I go to Orange Theory every day. Um, so,
That's
um, so companies like Orange Theory, restaurants, obviously hospitality or hotels are a little bit different, but like in those ways, did you imagine like this digital transformation that was going to happen? And once it happened, is that when people started kind of saying like, oh, let's talk about this transformation, like how we're changing the way we're working to accommodate? Did you see people coming back after what? I would guess it took everybody about 6 to 8 months to figure it out.
when you say digital transformation, you mean digital marketing
Yeah,
camp?
so like for Orange Theory, I know they had like they started having remote classes and doing things
Uh,
online and a lot of fitness
yeah.
brands. And then for restaurants, they started doing curbside delivery and takeout. So, obviously that didn't happen right away. There was like this transition period where people were like really did not know what to do with themselves. So how did that pan out in the PR side?
Got it. That's such a good question. I think the one thing I kept saying to my clients is I'm never going to feel 100% confident anymore in terms of saying this is how your campaign is going to go,
Yeah.
which I completely felt prior to 2020. Whether you were a hotel chain or a large fitness brand, I could say this is how it's going to go. And I don't think anyone, if they're being honest right
Yeah.
now in 2021, can really tell you what the roadmap's going to be for traffic and business flow. But I think everyone tried to, these are all creative areas that we work in, right? I
Yeah.
mean, like everyone, what are actors going to do with their energy? And so we'll try Zoom, and we'll see how that works. We found it was really hard because even with fitness classes, people they just weren't embracing it in the way that I think everyone hoped that they would, because I think everyone just so hunkered down and was so into spending time with their family and watching Netflix. And it was really hard to make noise on that level as much as we tried. I think in terms of coverage, I think part of it was the media landscape had changed so much too,
Oh
because
yeah.
there was a great downsizing there too. And we saw a lot of local publications go under. We saw broadcast outlets lay people off. So when we were getting the coverage and traction there, we were surprised to see that it wasn't always resulting in audiences for these Zoom performances or Zoom fitness classes, et cetera, et
Oh
cetera.
yeah.
So now we're still in the pandemic, right? It's like, I think there is a little bit more of a feeling of you're in concert with your customer. Like your
Right.
customer's like, hey, what's your policy? Whatever it is, like you're loyal to Orange Theory's brand, whatever their procedure is regarding masks, et cetera, you're going to
Yeah.
go along with it because that's just what it is.
Yeah.
And I get all of this. Gosh, I remember early on in the pandemic saying to clients like, oh my gosh, we need to brand we need to brand masks. You're a restaurant and we've got to get masks in there. And I mean, that was kind of revolutionary back last March to even think about that, which is crazy to think about that. But we were coming out with a whole game plan, but who knew what was still to unfold? I mean, it was just, we've all lived through such an interesting historical time in our country. And it is amazing when you look at 9/11 and then the banking crisis in 2008 and 2009, and now the pandemic, and how we are so resilient as people just to get through these terrible, terrible situations and tragedies and still keep going every day.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, no wonder mental health is like the top concern for everybody, right? Like that industry is definitely booming right now. It's been really crazy. I mean, I think it's so interesting because, obviously like when it comes to entertainment and hospitality and that kind of stuff, it's like something that hits us every single day. I mean, I was in my house, I didn't go anywhere. And then on the weekend, like when Thursday, Friday came around, we would have to start plotting how to go to Costco just one time to get 2 weeks worth of food. It's like you have to like start strategizing. And I don't think it's something that none of us have ever done that before. And then also there's that group of people like Huntington Beach here is famous for, just saying no. They did not want to wear masks. They didn't want to be after, I think it was I want to say it was like around October or the end of summer. I think they were like, we're not enjoying our summer. We're going to the beach. We're taking our masks off. They totally like rioted, kind of like a mini riot. And they're like, no, like we want to participate in daily activities. And I think that's, at this point, you're right. We're still in the pandemic. We don't know what's going on. I'm getting emails from conferences saying, you must have a COVID vaccine. So what do you think that's going to look like for hospitality moving forward? I mean, we're going to have like a mixed bag for a while. I don't know how long this will last. So, and I mean, nobody does. So what do you think is kind of the future of hospitality and how they have to strategize?
Well, since this is a PR podcast, I think a lot more attention is being paid to how organizations communicate what their protocol is and cleanliness. I mean, right now, it's so fascinating to me. So many of our hotel brands have an on-site COVID protocol manager. So that is just completely dedicated to that. Our Equity Union Theater Productions in Chicago have a COVID manager now for every production.
Wow.
I mean, and to your question, it's like, how long will that go on? Who knows? But I feel that it's an area that it's fascinating to me because cleanliness is such a big part of
always,
hotel and a restaurant, right? So, but we never led with it, right? Because it's like, it's kind of, you want to see the star rating, but when you're looking at a resort or a hotel, you want to see, do they have a pool and how many restaurants do they have a rooftop deck?
Right.
And now we have people actually making some choices based on cleanliness. TripAdvisor, that's one of the big things, is how clean is the room. And that's really important to our hotels. I traveled with my children to Italy in August, and it was I was in this perfect window of before everything started being discussed regarding the Delta variant,
Okay.
COVID kind of the numbers going down.
Yeah.
When we were in Italy, I mean, you could not enter anywhere without showing your vaccine card and being masked. And in Chicago at that time, you did not have to wear a mask indoors, and no one was showing vaccine cards. So
Wow.
Interesting, because I think what will be interesting moving forward is how do you navigate this world of, if you're driving here in Chicago, we have the mask mandate. I can drive to Indiana an hour away and they don't have the mask mandate.
Right. So you have to, like, anytime you go anywhere, you have to look it up first.
Absolutely.
Like, do I need to wear a mask? I mean, I don't know about you guys, but in our cars, every one of we have we have 2 cars, and in the cars, we have masks hanging in the car, like, just because we don't know.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think that's the challenge, again, from a PR standpoint, is I just heard a statistic last week that the number of cases of people being violent on airlines and getting into altercations has been directly attributable to being told that they have to wear a mask on board.
Yeah.
And so that is going to be a challenge in terms of your customer base of 50% believe in wearing a mask and 50% doesn't. And how do you manage that? And so,
I mean, at this point, I think I just wear a mask just for other people. I'm not necessarily wearing it for myself. I'm just wearing it to show other people, like, hey, look, I'm being respectful. I'm following the rules. Like, just so you know, I'm doing that,
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a tricky game to navigate. So I think, I mean, from what I'm hearing from you, like, just in the entertainment, hospitality, retail, like, kind of the places where you play, you were kind of forever changed. And that's going to be an integration into cleanliness, is going to be safety and cleanliness. Safety is another one that I noticed, was like, safety and cleanliness sound like a big deal.
Well, I have a 16-year-old daughter, and I said to her, the way you raise your children one day, and how you feel about washing your hands and all of that is going to be completely changed, right? Because she lived through it, and one day she will be a grandmother telling her grandkids, well, you better make sure you're washing your hands. I lived through the pandemic, right? So we all are changed. I mean, the theater is completely different when you go, and such a big part of theater is emotions, and hearing that
expressions
is muffled by masks. And so our whole experience is changing there. We represent Illinois' largest water park. It's called Raging Waves. And so a big part of the communication this summer was what was being done to make sure that all COVID protocols were in place.
Do you have to wear masks at Raging Waves?
No, it's outdoors, so they did not. I have to say, this water park is immaculate always. I mean, I don't think there's a cleaner water park in the country, but people, I think, felt a little more comfortable because it was outside, though, too.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's a huge challenge. Well, anything else that, like, unexpected that maybe came out of, like, you mentioned, you guys were navigating recruiting as a new thing. Anything else that came out that was unexpected for you?
Well, I think George Floyd's death was something that impacted our world. Mm-hmm. We found that we were in situations where we had some clients where employees were calling on more diversification of staff moving forward, mm-hmm. because of what was happening in our country. And certainly in Chicago, the riots that happened here shut down a lot of our hotels and restaurants. I mean, I was watching CNN, and literally in front of the Witt Hotel, there was a Chicago police car that was set on fire. And the next thing I saw, people storming the Witt Hotel and breaking glass, et cetera. And the ramifications of that were the hotel was just opening after the pandemic, and they ended up not opening for at least a good month after that, because they had so much damage to the property. But, we were in a position where we were advising our clients too, in terms of what should be done in terms of diversity training and helping them be more proactive in that way.
Yeah, I think that's something that a lot of people kind of overlook when it comes to public relations is that, yes, in our agency, we focus in media relations and we focus on that side, but there's so much more to PR and being sure that you have the right communication and messages for different situations is really important. And did you find that a lot of your clients did they come directly to you for that? Or was it something like they had been talking about what they're going through and then you guys were able to say, hey, actually we can help you with that?
Well, I think all publicists, we're reading the room faster than everyone else, right?
Right. I love that.
Yeah. And so I think we were anticipating what was going to happen. For me in January, just going back to the pandemic, I went into my team with my team to a meeting in January and I said, there's this virus in China and it is going to impact us. And I remember I said it to my mother and my mother said, oh, you're being over dramatic. Of course no, it's not. But anything that affects tourism is going to impact hotel,
Yeah.
restaurant clients, et cetera. So I saw that one coming. And in terms of Black Lives Matter, it's such a profound way to open up hard conversations that sometimes people don't want to have, but that they need to have. And I think for us, we were watching some businesses go through some things that we wanted to make sure that our clients were not going to go through or be prepared for. And public relations, since you're the steward of the brand, is so much about making sure that they're doing the quote unquote right thing and on all. And I really truly believe that. I think our clients would say that about us is I've always felt that our campaigns were so much more than providing a few placements each month.
Yeah.
It is 360 holistic. How are you seen? How are you perceived? When I'm experiencing a hotel stay, I'm really looking at it like, okay, I'm the publicist, but what would I think if I was a consumer?
Yeah.
And so I'm always making notes and sending emails over to clients regarding whatever you need to change the signage here. It's hard to find the lobby from this floor of the hotel. It's whatever it may be. Whatever it may be. Those are customer satisfaction issues that overall impact a brand. And that's what I think a good publicist does, is looks at it from a comprehensive perspective.
Yeah, I mean, that's so funny that you say that because I look at everything differently, right? Like, especially in your specific industry, you're like, oh, they shouldn't have said that. They should have said this. It's like, it's so funny because you just go into everything with an analytical mind. Now I'm going to go into hotels and be like, what would Noreen do?
Well, it doesn't it. I mean, you can relate to this. Doesn't it makes you in some ways feel like you don't enjoy life as much because you're looking at, why did they do that with that sign? And for me, I am always if I'm at a baseball game or if I'm playing, I'm like, it's only half full. What could they have done to fill this? My brain cannot stop. Like, that is just how I'm wired. So.
Oh, I did that. I have 2 daughters and they had a dance recital. And I was at the dance recital just talking to my husband. My husband's like, what is wrong with you? And I'm just like, well, why are there not so many people here? And like, why are there 3 entrances instead of just 1 entrance? And this is very poorly organized. And I go into this organizational mode. It's just, you can't turn it off. It's that personality type, right?
You can't. You absolutely can't. And then you hear about stories from other publicists, just like listening to you. It's like we all relate to all of these situations so much.
No, absolutely. Yeah, that's so funny. This is awesome. There's so much that could be said about this industry. And, I like to leave off all of these conversations with some great tips people can follow immediately or soon, So what would you say, in 2022, we're going into a brand new year. I can't believe it went so fast. 2022, what do you think are some strategies people should really implement, PR strategies people should implement into their communications plan, or some things they should try to kind of just stay with the times and, shake it up a little bit?
Okay. Well, first of all, what we really feel at Heron Agency is that social media just became everything over 2020 because everybody was trapped in their house. Everyone started really paying attention to their Instagram accounts and everyone else's, and obviously TikTok, sorry. So we are in turn looking at that really as how you get your local community news, like
Yeah.
newspapers. A lot of the local publications unfortunately folded, and so what we are really doing at the agency is posting a lot of information on Facebook groups, particularly moms groups and neighborhood groups. I think so many people turn to their neighborhood groups over COVID. So
You know what? Now that you say that out loud, I actually did join a couple neighborhood groups. So that's weird. That's so weird.
so so many people did, and we can, what if it's a national campaign, we can look at whatever city it's in. There's literally thousands and thousands of people that are turning to that as their news source every day, but they're paying so much attention to hyper local news.
Yes, that's what I was about to say that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's one thing. It's not that it's revolutionary because I know we all know it and do it, but I think influencers are more and more impactful than they ever were before because of the social media traffic. And TikTok. Obviously, we work so hard to try to identify in each city who we should be working with, and it's so important for our categories, clearly. And the third thing, I think the biggest thing is, people are doing a lot more research on the authenticity of brands. Like they are understanding more than ever that where they're spending money is their vote. Like we all vote on election day, or hopefully we do.
Yeah.
But every time you're spending money, you're voting on the business that you're supporting. And I think people are understanding that more and more than they ever were. So
I love
telling a brand story, getting it out there in terms of if there's a family history, procedurally how things are done, the care and compassion that employees show, diversity, certainly having some sort of charitable element to a company. People did that, but I think it's held with more weight now than it ever has been previously.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, I know that during the pandemic, I think a lot of people turned towards health, right? Because obviously COVID, and then I was like leaning on fitness and Orange Theory and taking my walks when they were closed for a long time. So, we kind of turned towards that, and I look at ingredients more, and then I want to feel good about the purchases that I make. And I do a lot of research before I go to a hotel. So yeah, I think it's, everybody's doing things with more intention. I think that's such a great thought.
Yes.
Yeah. So like incorporating messages that kind of cover that area, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, this is so good. Is there anything that stands out from last year, something that you guys felt really good about that you kind of accomplished?
Oh my gosh, that's such a
I
good.
know. Left field. Sorry. I like to sneak those in there.
Well, I said it earlier. For me, I mean, the fact that I kept my senior team, I felt was for me personally, just the way that I've always wanted my agency to run, where my people felt I had their back. I felt badly that I had to let my junior people go, but what I did was I gave each of them $1,000. I didn't want to just throw them on the street. I gave them, which I haven't heard of anybody else giving like payouts like that. I gave them each $1,000 and their 401k to date and all of that, because it was terrible. I mean, I had nothing else I could do when you go from 59 to 6 clients. I couldn't keep everyone. And even with that, I have, like I was saying, there's companies that are much larger than my PR agency that laid everyone off. So for me as a small business owner, I think I did what I felt was the right thing to do. And so I feel good about that.
No, I think you should. That's awesome. I mean, it is very difficult to make those decisions. I know I make them all the time. So I don't know, like firing anybody or laying people off, they never gets easier. Like everyone hurts. It hurts
Yeah.
every time.
Well, yeah, and I had never done that before.
Yeah.
I had a bad year or bad months. I always just took the hit myself. And I loved saying that I'd never laid anyone off.
Right.
I was it was always part of my when I interview someone, I'd always say that
Yeah.
and throw that out there. And it really felt terrible. And if I know it felt terrible for them too, but it really does feel terrible for you as the business owner.
You feel like you disappointed them, it's like,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
disappointed yourself.
Absolutely. But it's an international crisis. There was no business. So
No, I mean, that's very commendable. Like, I appreciate you. I think it's good to have owners that care as much as you do as well. And it's been great talking to you. And I think it sounds like, if we got through this, we could get through anything, right?
that we keep saying, wow, because we're really rebounding, which is fabulous. But
Yeah.
once really truly over, we're like, the sky's the limit again. So
Yeah. Well, and I think also for the rebound side of it, I think when you're talking in a business, it's like, how long can you personally, as a human, how long can you hang on? And it's like, if you can hang on long enough, then you can rebound. But if you can't, it's a test of your personal limits, your mental limits, your physical limits. So there's a lot going on. And I think, I appreciate everybody who's in a business, a founder, a CEO who had to go through this. It's very, very difficult. And then you see a group of kind of young, new emerging companies, which is kind of really exciting as well. But there's so many other legacy companies that are still kind of, holding on by a string for now.
absolutely. Well, thank you for that. That's nice of you to say that. I appreciate that.
No, absolutely. Well, I'm so happy to talk to you today. I hope we get to talk again in the future when things kind of look a little bit more normal and see what the trends are next year, maybe. And how can people find you if they want to find you? We'll have your info in the show notes, but I always like to have you verbalize it.
So we are heronagency.com, and I am Noreen, Noreen, at heronagency.com.
Oh, we got the email out there now. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And thanks for joining me.
Oh my gosh, you asked great questions. I love being here. Thank you.
You're welcome.